Hello world, it is I, the Mystic Philosopher. And of course, you are now tuned to the right number with the Mystic Philosopher. Let me also welcome you to another of my video presentations in the series titled The Redemption from the Curse of the Black Spell. This presentation is titled What's Wrong with This Picture? This picture, which is actually the image that you are now looking at on your screen. And I guess some of you might be asking the same question right now. I was inspired to do this presentation, and I am inspired to do this presentation by both this image and the question that is on top of this, that you notice on top of this image. That's where the title of this presentation is from. And it was placed on my Facebook page, or Facebook wall. A Facebook friend of mine posted this image and the question on my Facebook wall a day or two ago. So by looking at it, I wrote a comment on it there, and I'm still inspired to do a video presentation on it. So this presentation is also a break from the presentations that I've been doing in the series called The Redemption from the Curse of the Black Spell. It's a sort of break from it. And particularly the response series that I have been doing over the past few days titled A Response to What Did Jesse Duplantis Say About Black People? So in this lecture presentation, or in one or maybe two that will follow, I hope to quickly share some of my perspectives on the Ebola virus and all the other deadly viruses that are currently plaguing us, the natural native earthly humans, and especially those of us that are of high melanin or high carbon skin. Those of us that the Black Caucasian system denigratingly and contemptuously called, labeled, profiled, and blacklisted as the black people. They blacklisted us as the black countries, the black communities, you name it. If this is your first time, or if this is the first time that you are watching or listening to any of my YouTube videos, I ask that you check out all the rest of my videos that are here on my channel called The Right Number, The Mystic Philosopher. I can almost guarantee you that if you are seriously and honestly interested in getting another perspective on many topics, topics and subjects that some people may call controversial, topics or subjects that some of you might have just taken for granted, things that you might have just accepted as truth, having been taught all your life by the system and society that they are true, and some of which you might not even seriously thought about, but in and by yourself, then here is the channel that you want to be tuned to. If at all you are looking for another perspective, if you want to hear the same old, the same way people are looking at things and re-echoing what others have said before without they themselves saying anything, this is a channel that you want to be on. Others will tell you what Marcus said, what Malcolm said, what others said, quoting others, but they can't tell you what they say. This is the right channel that you will get another perspective. So you're at the right place and at the right time. So what's wrong with this picture? Take a careful look at the picture on the screen, ladies and gentlemen, my friends and viewers. First, let me say that my heartfelt sympathy goes out to my brother's, my deceased brother's family, which is also my family. And I would like to tell them or use this opportunity to remind them of the fact that our brother is now with our ancestors. I would also like to remind them or tell them that from them he came, meaning he came from our ancestors. From them, our ancestors, he came. And unless he has somehow missed his way while on his journey home, back home, to be with them, and ended up in another Black Caucasian dominated, governed, controlled, and colonized world, or in the Black Caucasian's heaven somewhere, then to his ancestors, which is also our ancestors, he has returned. And by them he has been most warmly welcomed and is very well received. And no doubt with them he has once again found forgiveness, mercy, acceptance, healing. He has found justice, happiness. He has once again found love, freedom, and real or true peace. For us, that are called Africans, us the people that are called Africans by the system, we that are the natural native earthly humans of high melanin or high carbon skin, that the Black Caucasian system denigratingly called, labeled, listed, and profiled black. Those things do not exist and cannot be found in this now Black Caucasian dominated and controlled society, or Black Caucasian dominated and controlled world. And to believe that we can, or to believe that we will find those things here in this, or in this system, is definitely not wise. And that is just to say the least. And when I said that no doubt that our departed brother, namely Thomas Eric Duncan, who is another unfortunate victim of the from whence cometh thou deadly, very deadly and fearful disease called Ebola, has once again found, when I say that he has once again found forgiveness, mercy, acceptance, healing, justice, happiness, love, freedom, and true peace, please let me hasten to say that I am not in the least talking about these things or these attributes as they are taught, as they are believed and practiced by the Black Caucasians' religions and philosophies, or the Black Caucasians' legal and political systems. Not at all. For example, I'm not talking about forgiveness as in the forgiveness of sins that he may have been accused of committed against the Black Caucasians or their God in accordance with their religious beliefs and doctrines and their God's dictates. Not at all. Because we have seen with our own physical eyes and we have heard with our own physical ears how the Black Caucasians have treated him while he was still alive and suffering. We have seen with our own physical eyes and heard with our own physical ears how they treated him while he was seeking their medical assistance at their hospitals. We have seen and heard how some of the Black Caucasians news media, their news reporters and commentators talked about him intentionally and deceptively entering their country while possible knowing that he was infected with the deadly Ebola virus and putting their people at risk. And that it was only after he was dead and that it was confirmed that he was really dead that some of them started to pretend, started to sound merciful, and started to sound as if they now sympathize or sincerely sympathized with the family. We have seen and we have heard all of that. So I'm not talking about him receiving mercy from the Caucasians or the black Caucasians, very fearful, terrible, dreadful, and vengeful God. Not at all. There is one Facebook comment that I read that said, if at all he, Thomas Eric Duncan, if at all he had lived, he would have ended up in jail, being persecuted, possibly sent to prison, if not in the United States of America, in Liberia. And I share those sentiments as well. And for those of you who may think that I am hereby making things up by describing and calling the black Caucasians God-fearful, terrible, dreadful, and vengeful, and even jealous, please let me prove to you that I am not the first to use those adjectives to describe him or call him. So I will quote a few examples from the black Caucasians' Adamic race history and holy book called the Holy Bible, and give you the examples. Example number 1, their God is a fearful God. And I quote, who is like unto thee, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like unto thee, glorious in holiness, fearful in praise, doing wonders? And that is found in Exodus 15 and verse 11. And another verse said that, and I quote, it is a very fearful thing to fall into the hands or in the hands of the living God. Hebrews 10 and verse 30. In other words, it is a very fearful thing to fall into the hands of the black Caucasians' God. And example 2, their God is a terrible God. And I quote, for the Lord Most High is terrible. He is a great king over all the earth, and that is found in Psalms 47 and verse 2. Example 3, their God is a terrible God. Example 3, their God is dreadful, or their dreadful God. And I quote, I prayed unto the Lord my God, and made my confession, and said, O Lord, the great and dreadful God, keeping the commandment and mercy to them that love him, and to them that keep his commandments. Daniel chapter 9 and verse 4. And the final quote, just to prove that I am not the one making up these adjectives to describe the characteristics of their God. Their God is vengeful, jealous, and furious. Quote, God is jealous, and the Lord avenges. The Lord avenges and is furious. The Lord will take vengeance on his adversaries, and he reserves wrath for his enemies. Unquote. Nahum 1 and 2. Those are not my words. Those are direct quote from the Adamic race history book called the Holy Bible, and you can check them for yourself. So no, I am not talking about my brother or the brother receiving acceptance, healing, justice, happiness, love, freedom, and true peace in accordance to the black Caucasians, their religions, and their God or gods. And as we have experienced and observed them, But I am talking about acceptance, healing, justice, happiness, love, freedom, and true peace in accordance to our natural source, in accordance to our ancestors and who and what we are. Not creatures, but natures. For example, when I say forgiveness, I am talking about him, our brother, being welcome home, his spiritual home, and back to his spiritual fold, or this spiritual realm, or the spiritual plane, or on the spiritual realm, or on the spiritual plane, his home there. I'm talking about our brother being warmly welcome home and being embraced by our ancestors, even though he may have neglected them, like many of us. He may have neglected them, even though he might not have taken a minute out of his short time here to revere them, to commemorate them, to offer or pour some form of libation rather, for them. He may not have taken out any time out of his time, minute out of his time to recognize and embrace their sometimes unknown, unseen, but ever presence, or to honor their memory while he was yet alive here, and maybe doing well. While he was doing well, he had no time for them. But he's still welcome home, even though he may have given their praises to their enemies and oppressors and persecutors. He may have given their praises to our oppressors and persecutors, God, our gods. He is welcome home. He is still welcome home now with his ancestors. Welcome home with our ancestors. And when we expire, not if we expire, but when we expire, we too shall all be welcome home by our ancestors, and to be with our ancestors regardless of how we may have spent our time here in this that is now the Black Caucasians dominated, colonized, and controlled world or earth. Now, to answer the question, what's wrong with this picture? Do you want to know the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Then if your answer is yes, the answer is quite simple. They, meaning these two Caucasians in this image or this picture, along with their fellow Caucasian people or brethren, prayed to their Caucasian God that I have mentioned and described for you earlier to be healed. They prayed to their God to be healed, to be cured. And their God, being faithful to them, who are his people, his children, and no doubt their God working through some of his own people, the Caucasian, for example, the Caucasian doctors, nurses, scientists, and other healthcare professionals, etc. He healed them, or he cured them of the most deadly disease that is now confronting the world. Disease called the Ebola. And in gratitude, in praise and thanksgiving, they, meaning these two now saved, they can talk about salvation. These two now saved, delivered, redeemed, healed, and above all, well and alive children of their God, they even testified of that fact and gave their God thanks and praises before the entire world on live television. Unfortunately, my brother, and possibly his family and friends, just like many others of my people today that have been deceived by the Black Caucasians and their religions, thought that he could have done the same thing. He no doubt may have thought that in the Black Caucasian system and country called the United States of America, that he was equal to a Caucasian. And that even though they labeled him and called him black, they labeled him, you can just look in his passport. They labeled and called him black. Black meaning evil, check your dictionary. Black meaning everything bad. And black meaning the opposite of white. And they labeled and called themselves white. White meaning, again, check your dictionary, everything good. White meaning pure, white meaning the opposite of black. He, our brother, thought that he would be recognized by them as being equal to a Caucasian, equal to them. And above all, he mistakenly thought that he was equal, or that he would be equal in the sight of the black Caucasian's God to whom he prayed. And that he would be treated as equal in the sight of the black Caucasian's God to whom he prayed. And that he would be treated equally by the black Caucasian's God and his people to whom he prayed. So he found his way back to America, possibly praying on his way there to who? The black Caucasian God. And when he got to America, he again prayed to the the Caucasian's God. He also went to the Caucasian's medical care system and prayed to them, or begged, beseeched them, if you will, for help in order to be healed. And the evidence now shows that his prayers went unanswered. If at all, it was listened to. And the evidence showed that he died. There it is on your screen. Why? From my perspective, he was praying to the wrong God, while expecting to be treated as a child of that God. It's because the Caucasian's God is not his or our God, period. The Caucasian's God is not his or our people's God, period. And yes, he is the God of force, by using force to hold us in captivity through his people. But he's not our God. And for those of us that think, believe, and teach others to think and believe that the Caucasian God is our God, is definitely not wise, and that is to say the least about such a person or people. Now, I am not saying, I want to listen to me carefully now. I am not saying, or in the least suggesting or implying, that if only he had prayed, or if only he was praying to our source, to our mother, and our ancestors' God or gods, that he would have been immune to the deadly Ebola virus, or that he would have been guaranteed to survive, that he would be guaranteed to survive, or that he would be immune to death, or that he would be guaranteed immortality in his physical body. Not at all. I'm not suggesting that. Nor am I saying, or in the least suggesting, that if he or if we are praying to, or if we all begin to pray to our source, to our mother, and to our ancestors' God or gods, that we will be immune to all illnesses. And in this particular case, that we will be immune to the from whence cometh thou deadly virus or deadly Ebola virus. And that we all will be guaranteed to survive should we become infected. Or that he will, or that we will be immune to death and would be guaranteed immortality in this our now physical body. In other words, I am not saying or suggesting that by praying to our source, to our mother, and our ancestors' God and gods, etc., would have us defy death and that we would live here forever and ever. Not at all. The truth be told, only selfish, desperately wicked, and abominable people really want to live forever. Only selfish, desperately wicked, and abominable people want to stay here forever, so-called young, and are doing everything in their powers, including rob other people of their lives. You have old people who should dead from sickness, live their lives, but yet there are all sorts of things going on where they are taking the organs of young people, poor people, all these criminal things going on because these people are doing it, robbing people of their organs just to stay alive because they are selfish, desperately wicked, and abominable. These are the people who want to stay forever young and to live forever here while depriving others of their life. They are doing everything in their powers in their vile and futile attempts at defying the inevitable old age and that which they call death. So the truth be told, we must die in order to live. And these people are ripping off other people. These are the wicked people. We, the natural, native, earthly humans, and especially those among us that are spiritually awakened and enlightened to the truth of who and what we are, and especially the truth that we are not black, the truth that we are not black, the truth that we are not the black ones, we know that which is called life and that which is called death goes hand in hand, or if you prefer, go hand in glove. We know that we can't have one without the other. We know that we can't sensibly, logically, and practically think of one without thinking of the other. We know that in terms of this thing that we call life, and living in this physical body, that regardless of how long we live, or correctly, regardless of how long our physical body endure, we will be dead much longer. Regardless of how long we live in this physical body, our body will be dead much longer. We know that life here on this physical, or in this physical, is or may be best described as a circle or a cycle. And we also know that we must return and that we will return to our source and to our ancestors from whence we came to be here. We know, remember the saying going, what goes around comes back around? We know, and our basic common sense reminds us, or keep reminding us, of the fact that if we did not come from the Caucasian source or from a black Caucasian source and ancestor, that we cannot return to a Caucasian source or to the black Caucasian source and ancestors, unless, like the black Caucasian Christopher Columbus, we too got lost on our way home and ended up among these strange people. And above all, we know that who we are cannot die. Because unlike the black Caucasians that are created by their God or gods and have a beginning and an end, and thus they are creatures of their creator God and is subject to death, we, the natural, native, earthly humans, are natures. We are not creatures. We are natures. We have no beginning and we have no end. And we don't even need to waste our time arguing or talking or sharing or waste our time here in this thing that we call life, thinking and talking about beginning and end, our beginning or origins and our end. No. That's not for us. That is for the creatures who were created. They have a beginning and an end. We don't. There's no beginning and no end to nature. And he who is trying to find out the beginning is a creature. You will always find that. You don't go into the jungle, or you don't go among natural people and here they're trying to explore space and go into the depths of the galaxies and coming up with all different type of theories and analogies and things like that to tell you about the beginning. We don't worry about that. We are not no beginning. We have no beginning and we have no end. It's only the black Caucasians and their religious ideologies and their scientists that are trying to confuse our people into thinking that we have beginning and end, or we are like them who have a beginning and an end. Not at all. Therefore, the message here is that we, the natural native earthly human, and especially those of us of high melanin and carbon skin, must not and should not forsake, we should not abandon, reject, neglect, or deny our source and Mother Nature, and our ancestors. No, we should not. The message here is that we should and we are to look to, and if need be, invoke and call upon our source. Invoke and call upon our source and Mother Nature. Look to, and we should look to, and if needs be, invoke and call upon our ancestors. Call upon the spirits of our ancestors and look to and call up on our ancestors' God and gods for help, deliverance, and for justice, etc. Instead of us praying to, looking to, revering and calling upon other people's God or gods, and worst of all, calling upon, praying to, and revering our enemies and oppressors, their heirs and their successors, ancestors, God's Lord, Saviors, etc. And calling upon them and looking to them for healing, deliverance, justice, and blessings, etc. It just does not make practical, logical, philosophical, metaphysical, spiritual, or even common sense. It just doesn't make it. It's not ours. Why look to them? While denying, turning our back on ours. Don't even want to be identified with who and what we are. And being deceived into looking to the people who are persecuting us. The people who hate us. The people who despise us. Who speak contemptuously against and about us. We are looking to them and their God for deliverance. It's like looking to an unjust system for justice. It doesn't make common sense. And this is what our ancestors are calling us back to do, to think and then to look to them. I would much rather call upon my source and Mother Nature. I would much rather call upon, pray to, and invoke the spirits of my ancestors, or my ancestors' God or gods, etc., and be satisfied, totally satisfied with whatever the results, whether or not they choose to grant or not grant my request, than to be crawling on my knees like a spineless worm, pleading to and hoping to receive mercy, healing, and deliverance, etc., from my enemies, from my oppressors, and other people's gods, saviors, and lords. I would much rather look to mine than to yours. Now, this is the end of this presentation titled, What's Wrong with This Picture? Please join me in my soon-to-be uploaded video presentation titled, Charles Darwin's End Time Prophecy Revealed, in which I will share with you some more of my very thought-provoking perspectives. I am the Mystic Philosopher, and thanks for watching or listening.